Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. It is Brandy Mabra, and I am so excited for today. We are talking about the five, five ways to have more freedom in your practice starting today.
Welcome to CEO Conversations, the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love.
So one of my favorite things is for you to have freedom. What is the song? Freedom, I think, or something. Yeah, don't take that part out. Me singing in the mic. No, I was kidding. Yeah, so it's 5 ways that where you can have more freedom inside of your practice. And this was inspired. Sometimes I like to tell you guys, where do I come up with this idea? So this was inspired because at this point in time, just true story, give you some behind the scenes of what's happening with me and some things I'm navigating. I have an aging mother who has had progressively worse health problems starting, and I've had to be more involved in her care. And so that is something I'm navigating. I have a change in my household because my son has just finished with his first year of college. Yay! Ended up on the chancellor's list and all the things, but now he's home for the summer. And even though he's a whole grown person, I am still his mother. I have a family who is very much attached to me and who needs me, for a bonus son who is 16 and then my significant other. And so that's a lot. That's a lot of different hats. Not to mention, I'm a business owner and I have a team who requires my time and my energy and my vision and where are we going and all the things. And so there is still freedom that I have in my business, but also I've had to put some things in place, which we'll talk about, to be set up for freedom, right? So I wanted to give you some story of just where this episode came from, give you some behind the scenes, because I know people always wonder, what I'm a real person and do all the things. And so let's start with the first way that you can have more freedom in your practice is by getting clear on your vision. What I see oftentimes is folks will build someone else's vision. They lack the clarity for what their vision is, so they adopt someone else's into their own. And it's always great to take inspiration. It's always great to be inspired by somebody, but your vision has to be your vision, especially when it comes to business. If not, you will build someone else's dream and you will hate it there. So I see this in a couple of different ways where people will hire for certain positions, pay a certain amount of money. They'll, do something that maybe somebody told them to do, whether if it's a colleague or if they worked with another coach and, go build this, or this is where the money's at. They're not really chasing or going after what they really want for their vision when it comes to their practice, their lifestyle. And they're doing something that they think will make them happy. And then they build it and then they get in it and they're like, this sucks. So the first way that you can have freedom is by getting very clear on what is your vision. And this is something that you need to be thinking about, not just one time, because as you evolve as a business owner, as your practice continues to grow, as you hire more team members, that vision is going to change. I've been hired for multiple practices where one of the first things that we've done is, as a new leadership team, is reestablish what the vision is, because that vision is so important. It dictates where you're going and it dictates why your team should have buy-in. It gives clarity for decision making. It allows for you to know, is this a good move? Is it not a good move? Because is it in alignment with the vision? There's past episodes, if you want to go back and listen, where we talked about values and making sure that the decisions and the practice is value aligned. And so this is very much in sync with that. One of the assignments right now that our private practice CEO clients have is they're creating what their 3 to 5 year vision plan is and what they want for their practice. And the reason why is because it's so easy to create a job for yourself and for you to lose track of, why am I showing up for work every day? Why am I doing this? Why am I spending all this money on payroll? Why am I, taking this type of risk? And so that vision is so important. So that's the first way. The second way is to define your definition of freedom. Freedom is different for everybody. I know for me, my definition of freedom is being able to own my days. I hated when somebody would tell me, we're going to put a 7 o'clock meeting on your schedule because we can. And I had no choice but to show up at 7 a.m. for this stupid meeting that I did not want to be part of. And I wanted to be hanging out with my son or be at home in the bed or be able to go and work out or be able to have a slow morning. And I got a 7 a.m. meeting that I did not want on my calendar. So my number one definition of freedom is being able to own my days. I want to decide how I want to start my day, how I'm going to end my day, how I'm going to spend my lunchtime, how I'm going to create space for myself, right? And so that is a game changer. My other definition of freedom is being able to be there for my family. Being able to take my kids when my kids were younger, being able to take them to school and pick them up. That was those memories, especially for my 19-year-old, those memories are priceless, right? We would pray in the morning. We would talk about his day. We would get caught up. He would update me on certain school drama. Like there was so much time and so many just so many memories that happened in that span of time that I will forever be grateful for that. Especially as he's getting older and he no longer needs me to be the person that I needed to be back then. And it's the same thing with the memories that I'm creating now. Another definition I have is being able to travel. I love to travel. If you go to my Instagram, you will see I've been to a number of different places. And I like being able to see the world and being able to see what God's creation is, right? And so if I'm stuck behind my desk or I'm stuck at my laptop or I cannot take the time that I need or I'm limited with the amount of PTO I can request, that's not freedom to me. That is not freedom to me. I always feel bad and I always challenge, especially if you're my client. If you're listening to this, I will challenge you if they're like, well, I have to work a certain schedule. Do you? Do you really? Do you really have to work a certain schedule? Or are you telling yourself that? Are you feeling obligated to that schedule? So getting very clear on the definition of your freedom is number 2. Number 3 is create your model calendar. I learned this very early on in my entrepreneurial days where I had a model calendar that I've always followed. And even in my practice, I had a model calendar. I didn't call it that, but essentially I had certain days where I would do certain stuff, and whether if it was audits or team meetings or looking at numbers or getting very clear on strategy meetings, like just all the things had certain times and certain days. So the model calendar is your opportunity to decide, how do you want to show up on your days? I talked earlier about everything that's happening with my mother and my family. And so right now we are in the process of revamping my whole entire calendar, right? So your calendar can change. As you continue to grow your business, your calendar will change and you have every right to change it. How you want to show up, how you want to, if you're still seeing patients, how you want to see patients. If you're in the place where you've been able to pull yourself back out of seeing patients, do you want to come into the office? Do you want to work from a coffee shop? You can still do that. Even if you have a brick and mortar in a whole office, you don't have to work there if you don't want to. You don't. So it's understanding the days and how you want to spend your days when you're thinking about your calendar. Right now, I'm experimenting with giving myself more white space. So I have 2 types of weeks, just to give you some background and some color for this. I have an A week, which is an amazing white space week. And this is new. And so this is where I'm able to do everything that is going to allow me to make more money. So this is a revenue generating week. Part of that week is rest. Rest is a revenue generating activity. So in those A weeks, I'm able to pour back into me. I'm able to schedule any doctor's appointments. I'm able to schedule any massages. I'm able to schedule therapy if I need therapy. I'm able to schedule a time with just to read a book. I'm able to sleep in if I want to. Like those weeks are priceless to me. I'm also able to do things like record this podcast because this is a revenue generating activity. So it's important for you to understand like what is in your calendar. So if you haven't done like a time audit when we're thinking about the calendar, then this is very helpful for you to understand like where's your time going? how do you want to spend your days? So for me, the A week is where I'm able to take the white space that's there and choose how I want to spend it. The B weeks, which I call beautifully full weeks, I am doing one-on-ones. I am looking at some things that get submitted to me. So my clients are able to send me job descriptions and policy and procedures, or review the strategy that ChatGPT wrote for them, and making sure that things make sense. And so I do a lot of that work on those weeks, which is more in the weeds type of work. And that's been a game changer for me. I feel better as I'm showing up in my business. I feel better for how I'm navigating things. I feel more clear. I don't feel like my brain is burning at the end of the day. And so it's important for you to decide, how do you want to show up, right? The CEO time is critical. And so I've given myself plenty of time to have that and to still continue to move my business forward. So for your model calendar, how do you want that to look? For a practice, if you are still seeing patients, I suggest you can do an A and a B week. I suggest for you to do it or to try it. If you've been able to pull yourself all the way out of the business, and then you need to have certain days and certain weeks where you're focusing on things, certain standardization when you're meeting with your team. Our team meeting is the third Tuesday of every single month, or my numbers week is on Friday. So giving yourself time and space to do things. Also, if you can have a week where it's full of just nothing but white space, or there's key things that you're focusing on, when it comes to, I get my massage the second Tuesday of every month, or my massages fall on my A week, or my self-care, my doctor's appointments fall on certain weeks of the month. And so just creating systems and cadences within your calendar is a game changer. And that has been where I have staples, standing appointments. I have standing hair appointment. I have a standing nail appointment. It's helpful. So that's number 3. Number 4 is control what you have control over. It is all about you making sure that you're setting yourself up from a perception standpoint. Your perception, your response, the actions that you take is everything that you have control over. So if you are coming from a place of everything is terrible, I have no freedom, the number one question is, how can you get more freedom? Right? After you decide what your vision is, after you know the definition of freedom, after you look at where your time is going, what can you control? There's a lot that you can control when you think about things inside of your practice, when you think about things in your life, and you don't have to be at the mercy of anything if you choose not to be. If you are coming from a place of, I'm the victim, that's hard. That is so hard. So control what you have control over, and it's going to be a game changer for you. So thinking about your situation, what can you control? And then number 5, and the last one, is honor the boundary. And I think that is, it all interacts with what you have control over, how you show up from a discipline standpoint and from a commitment standpoint is so, so, so important. So even going back to the calendar, you can create a calendar, but if you're not holding that boundary to actually sticking to the calendar, or if you're saying like, I want to work out more, but you're not sticking to the boundary of actually working out, then there's no freedom in that. Right. And so it's definitely making sure that you're honoring what you want for yourself and holding true to that boundary, and not lying to yourself, and being honest with yourself, and actually having the commitment and the discipline that you need in order to have true freedom inside of your practice. So just to sum this up, number 1 is to get clear on the vision that you have for yourself and for your practice. Number 2 is to find your definition of freedom. Number 3 is create your model calendar. Number 4 is control what you have control over. And number 5 is to hold your boundaries, hold your freedom boundaries in order to make sure that you're set up for success. One of the things when we're thinking about what can you control, going back to my mom's health, I cannot control the outcome of her health, the diagnoses that she's been given, the amount of medication that she has to take. What I can control, and part of the creativity of me changing up my schedule, is I can create more white space to give myself more time and the room for unpredictability when it comes to her health, right? So I'll be honest, in the beginning, I was a little bit of like, oh my gosh, what to do. And I think that's always a normal response. There's the first stress reaction that you will have, the first like, whoo, goodness. And I felt those emotions. I went through that, but then I was able to snap into what can I control, right? What solutions can I put into place? How can I help myself in this season that I'm in order to be able to show up the way that I need to show up, but also not drain myself in the process. When you control what you have control over, you're preventing yourself from burning out. And life is going to life. There is not a better saying than life is going to life. Like, there is going to be things happening that you had no clue that was going to happen. Life is unpredictable. So the best thing that you can do in the unpredictability is to find, what can I do? There's always something that you can do. Whether for me, it's praying for the discernment on the solution for what to do. It's sitting down and maybe jotting down some actions that I could take. It's journaling out the perception and the feelings and emotions that I'm having in order for me to give myself an honest reframe for things. And so when you're in these moments, it can throw off a whole trajectory of your business, the whole trajectory of what sometimes feels like your life, right? And so when we're talking about freedom and when we're talking about being able to do something amazing, you can decide how you're going to show up to it, and you can find real solutions. And so with this, that's the best thing. The best thing when you decide to have more freedom is you can decide how that looks for you. So those are the 5 ways that you can have more freedom in your practice starting today. I am curious to know if you want to either reach out to me on Instagram at Brandy Mabra, Brandy Mabra, or you can even, if you're watching this, then you can leave a comment and let me know what resonates with you the most and which one you're going to implement. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you